Every apple drops to the ground before you eat it. I don't know. I just made that up. That's pretty good, right? Just keep that in mind. Yeah, every apple drops to the ground before you eat it. Ooh, that's good. But just know that that's from the big string to the small string. And maybe you can do one going from the small string to the big string. Hey, I thought it was you. I really appreciate you stopping by and watching this. And what this is about is actually helping the viewer to understand that you don't have to do as much memorization as you think you do as it relates to music. Music is a container of relationships, a container of elements that relate to one another. My goal for this channel is to actually help to make learning music easier, but also incorporate what you learn into actually like recording music as well. And the main instrument that we will use is guitar. That's really my aim, you know, and I have an aim to inspire creativity. That's really what it is. Music does not have to be hard. So I think that's it for this intro. As an example, let's start here. We all know what the alphabet is, right? We know that. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, you know the rest. We know that. Well, in music, there are note names that use the first letters of the alphabet, and that's A through G. Now, is that something that you have to memorize? Nope. You don't have to memorize it because you know the alphabet. Well, this is what I mean by relationship. You can relate something that you already know to something that you're newly learning. But you already know the alphabet though, you know what I'm saying? And you can apply what you already know about the alphabet to what you're trying to learn in music. So we're not relearning the alphabet, we know that, okay? So the first 7 letters of the alphabet is A through G, we know that. And A through G, these are actually existing names of notes. We can go on a short rabbit trail to maybe define what a note is, okay? What is a note? Well, actually, what is music? Let's give music a very simple definition. And let's call music a collection of sounds. Let's just call it that, all right? There's a more technical definition. I know that the definition involves harmony, melody, and rhythm, you know, rhythmic elements and stuff like that. But what we hear are sounds. What we hear is sound. Everything has a sound. Even the air brushing up against our ears is sound. You know, sound is basically the vibrating of molecules and, you know, and the fact that our eardrums vibrate at a certain rate. We hear sound, you know, our brain processes it as sound, basically. Now, that sound produces a tone to us. We perceive it, okay, as tone. All these have definitions. One way that you can define a note, and actually you can scramble the letters of tone and you get the word note. So I think that's kind of cool. I got it pulled up, Wikipedia. Musical note. We don't want to confuse a written note like writing a letter. A musical note are distinct, isolatable sounds that act as the most basic building blocks for nearly all of music. That's what it says, okay? So the way that I would actually describe what a note is, and right now I'm differentiating the difference between a tone and a note. Because someone could say, I hear the notes. Well, let's differentiate a tone from a note. Let's just say that notes are the written representation of what a tone is, okay? And we give those notes names, and we use the alphabet to actually name the note. So that if we wanted to write it on a piece of paper, if we wanted to, you know, digitally represent it, we could say that this is what we see is a note, all right? And it represents the sound or the tone that we hear. This involves relationship. I could refer to the alphabet. I could refer to what we already hear. Okay. Even things that we don't qualify as music, you could say that you hear sound. And some people could say that they feel sound. If they can't hear audibly, they could probably say that they feel sound, because they can touch. All right. They can perceive vibration. All right. So we assign a name to a tone or to a sound, and we can say that the assignment is called a note and the name is the letter. Okay. So I could drill that, more than I should, but that's what that is. So let's try not to say when we're learning music, let's not say that when we're learning music that is too much to remember. Just understand that these are series of relationships. Okay. Relationships between things that we already know and relationships within music itself. Okay. As you learn one thing and learn another thing, it's going to relate to the previous thing that you learned. All right. Let's actually define relationship. All right. I don't even know what this is. Maybe this is Google. The way in which two or more concepts, objects, or people are connected. Real simple, right? I can acknowledge that because I'm learning music and I know the alphabet, I can say that the alphabet and music is connected in certain ways, right? We're going to keep it right there. So the first 7 letters of the alphabet is A through G. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. All right. Between those letters are sharps and flats. Between A and B is a sharp or a flat, so on and so forth. There are 2 exceptions, or 1 exception, but two different things to consider. Between B and C, there is no sharp and flat. And between E and F, there is no sharp and flat. If you can remember this, okay, I don't want to call it memorization, because you know the 7 letters of the alphabet and you know that there are sharps and flats between these letters, except between B and C and except between E and F. If you can retain that information, that will do a lot for you, and you could actually get by using the concept of relationship. Okay. Now, what you will have to memorize in learning guitar are the notes of the open strings on a guitar. Okay. The notes of the open strings are E, A, D, G, B, and E. And that was something that I had to memorize. And there are creative ways to memorizing that. Yeah, I can't think of one, but there are creative ways to memorize that E, A, D, G, B, E whole concept. Okay, just keep that in mind. And it's different for everybody. Every apple drops to the ground before you eat it. I don't know. I just made that up. That's pretty good, right? Just keep that in mind. Yeah, every apple drops to the ground before you eat it. Ooh, that's good. But just know that that's from the big string to the small string. And maybe you can do one going from the small string to the big string. Which one is the first one or the 6th one? Right now, we're not talking about that, but I do talk about that in other videos. That's one part. So now, if I were to name the notes right now, based off of what I previously described, I could say, starting with A, we know A through G, right? And we know the rule that I just explained between B and C and between E and F. We know that, right? So now I could say, we start with A, we go to A sharp, B flat, then we go to B, then we go to C. C sharp, D flat, then we go to D. Then we go to D sharp, E flat, then we go to E, and from E we go to F, then F sharp, G flat, then G. Then we go to G sharp, A flat, because we're starting back to A. So, and just know that the sharps and flats are the same, okay? Between A and B, A sharp is the same as a B flat. So those little things, you do have to lock that in your mind a little bit. And when you practice it and when you know what a sharp and flat is, that's a concept in itself. But just know that when you're going up in the scale, meaning higher in pitch, you're going in the sharp direction. One way that I remember that is It's kind of corny. If I were to use a rhyming technique, I would say tarp sharp. A tarp is something that leans over you, okay? So it goes forward. So tarp sharp. It's almost like the righty-tighty, lefty-loosey thing. Righty-tighty helps you to remember that if you want to tighten something, you turn it to the right. Same concept. Then I could say back flat. So if I'm going backwards, I'm going flat. So in other words, if I'm going from B to A, I'm going flat. I'm going in the direction that's going flat. So in between B and A, if I'm going from B to A, well, that what's in between is actually B flat. All right. But it's the same as A sharp. The same thing. Relationships. These are all relationships. It depends on where you're going. It depends on the direction, so on and so forth. But we can't ever forget A through G, and we shouldn't forget that there are notes in between those, okay, except B, C, and E and F. Now, as a whole, all of these notes in terms of frequency, in terms of like vibration, they're the same distance apart mathematically. Just know that, okay? And that's one of the reasons why between B and C, there's no alphabetical, is that a word? Alphabetical representation for that. It's just from B to C. B to C is the same distance tonally from C to C sharp. Okay, so it's nothing, if we don't overthink that, it will actually help us. So let me actually grab my guitar so that I can show you something. So since we know what I just explained, okay, I could tell you to count based on that relationship, based on the A to A sharp, so on and so forth. If you know that this is an E, and if I asked you what is this first fret, if I just asked you what it is, if you really lock that into your thinking, you would automatically know what that is. If this is an E right here, and you know that there's no sharp or flat after the E, but you know that F comes next, well, you would automatically know that this is an F. You would automatically know that. It's you understanding relationship, okay? After F, well, you know that there is a sharp after that, well, F sharp. And then after F sharp, you know the F sharp is the same as a G flat, so it goes after that, this is a G. Because you know that after a G is a G sharp and or an A flat, you know that this is a G sharp or A flat. And then after that is an A. So if you understand the relationship and you keep that in your mind, this will take you a long way. It will take you a long way, and you won't be stuck memorizing these different names, okay? You can just keep that in mind. You won't wrestle as much with the idea of note names. It'll actually come together actually a little faster for you. I'm not saying that everything will drop in your lap, but it'll actually come together faster for you if you keep this in mind. So yeah, it's actually kind of cool because I love relationships, and I know I understand relationships. And maybe this is why I love music so much. Maybe it is why I'm able to pick up on music a certain way, because initially I learned music by ear. It wasn't because I sat down and learned notes and notation, and it was because I was able to understand what I was hearing, and I was able to compare what I would hear if I hit a piano key. I was able to understand the relationship of what I heard on the radio and what I heard on the piano. I could understand, I could perceive the relationship, and the vibrations matched. And many of us, if we point it out, like sometimes someone doesn't point it out to us, but if someone pointed it out to us, it's like, oh yeah, I do hear a difference there. So I was able to just notice, okay, and I was able to be aware of that note is different from what I heard. Okay, this note is a little bit closer. Okay, that note is a little bit closer, but it's not quite it. Oh, that's it right there. And it was literally trial and error. It's not like I put my finger straight on it and I knew it. So understand that people who play music by ear, when they first start, it's not like it just flows out. It's because they're actually not afraid to get it wrong, and there's a lot of trial and error, and then they finally get it, and then they practice the parts that they get right, and then they build on that, and they build on that, and they build on that, and then after a while you do it faster. Okay, but you got to start somewhere. So don't be intimidated by witnessing the fact that someone is further along than you in the process, because they have put a level of work in already to where they get better at it. All right, just know if you're starting here, this is where you start, and maybe somebody can help you along a lot faster. But don't be discouraged to the point of stopping, and don't feel overwhelmed because it feels like a lot of information. Just know that there's a better way to retain musical information, and it's more effective if you use the concept of relationship. Everything in music relates to something else, and maybe a step was skipped, okay? And everything on the guitar, one thing depends on another thing. So that helps me teach guitar a lot more effectively. And if you embrace that one thing relates to another, one thing depends on another, okay? And for example, if I show you an E major chord, right? I can show you an E major chord, or I can show you why that's an E major chord. And you would remember that E major chord a lot easier if I showed you why it's an E major chord. But a lot of you don't care why. You just want to know what, and you just want to play it. But just know on the back end, you would feel a lot more rewarded if you knew why it was a E major chord. I'm going to give you what you asked for, but just know there is a why, and just know that it does relate to something else, and it will help you feel more motivated and less frustrated to actually come back and try it again and do it better. All right. Feel free to subscribe. Feel free to go back and listen to or watch previous videos on other songs. Feel free to make requests. Feel free to comment and let me know what you want to see more of. It is very important that I answer your questions. In fact, this video is answering a question and is answering a complaint that someone had about learning guitar. And I'm making this video in response to that. Okay, so just know that it's not all about memorization, but it's more so about understanding relationship, understanding the relationship elements within music, and that everything relates to another thing. All right, peace. Enjoy your day. Love you.